Square Enix is running Mickey and Friends ragged over in Japan these days. A mere 4 months after the release of Birth by Sleep, the next tale in the Kingdom Hearts series arrives just in time for the new year. A remake of the Japanese-only cell phone game Recoded borrows heavily from previous installments, but manages to deliver a few surprises and new tricks. With the bar set high by Birth by Sleep, can Sora's latest portable adventure measure up?
Something's happening.
Recoded does little to advance the series' overarching story. Rather, it retreads old territory, delving mostly into the plot lines of the original Kingdom Hearts. Mickey and the rest of his Disney cohorts are trying to get to the bottom of a mysterious message in Jiminy Cricket's journal, and it's up to a digital version of Sora to aid them by revisiting the worlds from Kingdom Hearts. Given that Chain of Memories already did this, the premise will come off as a cheap cash-in to any veteran of the series. The story is more lighthearted than the typical Kingdom Hearts fare, lacking the excessive angst that sometimes characterizes the series. However, the core plotline is a convoluted mess, and the story drags on.
The link from here to the real world has been totally cut.
Oh?
One of our biggest complaints with Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days was the mission-based structure. Recoded ditches this format in favor of a more traditional formula that involves exploring entire worlds at your leisure. It's a change for the better, successfully conveying the sense of freedom that the Kingdom Hearts games are usually known for. There's also an abundance of extra activities to engage in after you've finished each world. You can fulfill new tasks, replay episodes to collect hidden items, and compete in a score attack to see how skilled you really are with the Keyblade. It all amounts to a good deal of replay value. While the environments feel familiar, the game does its best to mix things up with diverse objectives. It makes the trudge mildly intriguing, but there's no skirting around the fact that veterans are stuck with environments that are at this point overused. Recoded does its best to mask this shortcoming by altering the landscapes to a degree, by filling each world with data blocks, increasing the amount of platforming. But be prepared for some serious deja vu. The new debug levels are little more than challenge rooms that test your combat skills, though those confident in their Keyblade abilities can place a wager on meeting certain battle conditions. The only truly noteworthy addition is the new stat system. In the vein of systems used in Final Fantasy games, Recoded presents you with a circuit board where you unlock abilities using stat chips obtained in combat. While your stats are still somewhat restricted to what chips drop in battle, you're given a modest degree of freedom in the character building department. You can also customize your command deck with various abilities, and you can forge new ones by combining any two, but you're locked out of changing your deck during combat, which is problematic. It'll take around 15 hours or so to complete the main story, making Recoded one of the shortest games in the series. There are plenty of extracurricular activities that can easily double that length, but the game eschews the comprehensive multiplayer modes present in the last 2 installments, in favor of a half-baked concept that utilizes the DS's tag mode. Birth by Sleep really nailed it when it came to the combat system, so it's no surprise that Recoded takes a page from its book. Though not nearly as complex, the combat in Recoded is certainly a step in the right direction. Your basic maneuvers and attacks are all present, and special moves and spells run on a cooldown mechanic that eliminates the tedium of magic points. Sora also retains the ability to perform finishing combos, some of which incorporate a minigame element that adds a measure of tension. The targeting system does its job and keeps you from getting disoriented in battle, though toggling between active targets remains a hassle. Despite the solid framework, battles become tedious. Recoded addresses this by changing things up in certain situations to provide different combat experiences. Battles in the Colosseum swap real-time combat for a turn-based system with context-sensitive input, and in a later world, you'll have to issue orders to Donald and Goofy in order to survive being deprived of your Keyblade. Some of these deviations provide unique and welcome changes of pace, but others, like the 2D side-scrolling levels and corridor shooter segments, are downright terrible with poor controls. Recoded features the most platforming of any game in the series to date, but it's hampered by many of the same issues from earlier entries. The jumping mechanics are simply not polished enough and suffer from loose handling, which results in more than a few headaches. Despite having manual camera control, you'll often find the viewing angles problematic during key platforming sequences, and it's hard to judge distance in general. New abilities meant to enhance your aerial maneuvering end up achieving the opposite effect. They make navigating ledges that much more challenging, though for once, you're given the option to turn these new abilities off. Ultimately, all these new mechanics will only temporarily divert you from the truth. Recoded rests too heavily on the shoulders of its predecessors, failing to really advance the series forward.
Oh?
358 Over 2 Days was one of the best-looking games on the system back in 2009, and while Recoded achieves the same technical level, it's guiltier than any other game in the series of reusing old visuals. The new debug levels are unimpressive and uninspired, and much of the music is rehashed, offering up familiar themes that do little to invigorate the atmosphere. The voice work is a nice touch, but for some reason you can't disable the subtitles, which impose upon the screen's already cramped real estate.
Sorry. Not quite.
By now, it's clear that the Kingdom Hearts series really needs to move into new territory instead of rehashing the same tired elements that are well past their expiration date. If you're new to the series, there are worse games than Recoded to start out with. Veterans, on the other hand, will be hard-pressed to find anything worthwhile here.
How about some good news?